Hi, episode 12. Oh my god. One of the, I got something like one thing I got like the vaguest sort of spoiler ever about episode 12, about this episode, where someone was like, one of my friends was like, oh, there'll be something you like in this episode, something you'll enjoy. And they didn't say what, and I was like, okay, probably. You know, and they were right. Oh my god. So yeah, first things first, I'm just gonna get back to a mistake I sort of made in a previous video where the branding on Adam's eye, we do know where he got that from because it actually says on the brand, and I just couldn't quite read it because of the contours of the face. It sort of makes it difficult. But SDC, Schnee Dust Company, so I mean the forced faunus labour has been mentioned earlier, which is very yikes and messed up. And they branded Adam like a bull, and he's a bull faunus. So that's a lot of insult to injury, you know, being treated as an animal and such. I'm not going to say that this tragic backstory redeems him in any way, shape or form, though. Not at all. Not for a second. I know that some people like to think that because a villain has suffered and has something you can try and sympathise with, even if you can't empathise with them. Some people think that if a villain has that, then they are they're actually sort of a good guy. And no, I think you can like a villain as a character. I think you can sympathise with the backstory and say that they deserved better. But at the end of the day, you know, if they weren't being mind controlled or something, then they made those choices themselves. You know, someone hurt them, and they could have gone from that experience and gone, okay, number one, I know what pain is like. It sucks. It's horrible. I don't want others to feel like that. Or number two, people hurt me, so why shouldn't I hurt them? And then go and actively hurt them, instead of going, oh, the world's crap, this is sad, going, I'm going to make it more crap. And it's like, he picked number two. Number one was right there. Multiple characters in this series took number one. You know? He took number two, so, you know, he's out, he's gone. He was dead to me before, and now he might actually be dead. Yeah, I definitely liked that. It's one of those things where, I don't 100% believe it, because you know what deaths on TV shows are like, where someone could get killed in the most McMurdery way possible and still they'll somehow miraculously survive. So however much I like that scene, a little part of me is still like, oh, maybe he's alive. And no, I really don't want him to be alive. I would much rather, if we ever see Adam again, it be flashbacks relating to the faunus or the White Thing. You know, I'd want it to serve things that would affect multiple characters. You know, I don't want it to be Adam's sort of fan service. I would want it to be if it's to do with the Schnee Dust Company, that will serve that will help develop their entire arc in Atlas. And if it's to do with the White Thing, well, there are multiple characters that have been in the White Thing, which I would not mind seeing again one way or another, or being developed, and might become important later on, because the White Fang needs a new leader, a permanent one. So that will have to be resolved, and obviously we would like Blake, but I would also settle for, you know, multiple other Faunus characters, like I think if you've been the leader of the White Fang before, you can't be again, but I'm not sure if that's 100% canon, so maybe Gira. And if it is, then like, whether that rule is real or not, Callie, I see no reason why Callie couldn't be it, to be honest, other than Gira got like a slight more focus in this TV show, so it seems he would seem a bit more likely than her, but she's fantastic and phenomenal, and that would also be great. Maybe Ilya, if they give her a bit more development, because I love Ilya, she would be great as that. That'd be coming quite full circle, I think, as well. Yeah, that, or like if they just introduce like another Faunus character, a sort of just mix between, like, if you had, the perfect would be like a hybrid of Sienna Khan and Gira, you know, where it's like you're willing to take action. It's just, I don't know, some people thought Sienna Khan was too extreme. I thought she was a great character, but there we go. I don't know much about these things, about like political movements in a fantasy world where people have gun swords. I'm not, and you have cat ears. I'm not entirely sure how to run that organisation, but there we go. So yeah, if we ever see Adam again, I would want it to be in some kind of flashback or just something like that where it serves another arc. I don't want him in the show in like present or future, because his present and future would only serve to create more bees stuff, like the bees angst, which is being resolved now, like they're doing that now. So I don't know why we would necessarily, I don't think we would necessarily need him again, and like that serves well as a death scene, because it's difficult to try and, lots of shows will have morally grey characters, but still morally grey characters and heroes and villains, and sometimes they will want like still a huge divide between the heroes and villains. So like they'll try to dispose of the villain in a way which doesn't sort of bloody the hands of the hero, even though you could argue that there are some cases where that's the only option. So like for example, Roman's death, when he's eaten by a griffin, because if Ruby threw him off a plane, he didn't have an umbrella, he would fall and die. He would have gone splat and she would have basically just murdered him. And like, I would have been okay with that, because it would have been self-defense. And at the end of the day, he kind of was a dangerous criminal, even if he was incredibly charismatic and very likeable and just a fun character. He was still a bad guy, and him and Nia were going to kill her. So yeah, like I would have been fine with that. But obviously RWBY is very sort of pure protagonist sort of thing, which like that's fine, it works with RWBY. I'm just saying like you can't do that with like every single character if you want them all to seem unique, because I think there are lots of different ways to make a character good without making them like the very sort of ideal good. In fact, you could still have incredibly morally grey characters which do like bad things and still be like, yeah, I agree with everything that they're doing and I support them, even if in real life you would never agree with that, you know? Like, if you've ever watched anything where, like, I don't know, someone's had to kill, like, lots of goons or something to save the world, and then, like, like they're like, have they killed lots of people? And it's like, yeah, to save the world though. Like sort of spy movies or superhero films or something like that. You don't think of it the same way you would do a serial killer preying on innocent people. It's quite like a leap. It's all about context. So I think Blake and Yang stabbing Adam and then like moving back and sort of watching in shock as he sort of stumbles about, and then him being in shock, and then him stumbling and falling into the waterfall, and after that huge punch from Yang as well. I think that's a good way of killing him without it, like, because they could have had it been like they stab him and watch him bleed out on the floor. But you could argue that if he hadn't gone to the edge, that they could have, like, that they could or would have tried something, and then, I don't know. But it's a very good way for his death to not be horrifying, because, like, when you compare other characters killing on screen, for example, like Cinder and Vanal, where she had her fingers in it, like, she was quite clawing at her organs from the inside out, and Vanal was, like, writhing and screaming in pain. Those are two very different scenes. Like, one of those is very cruel, and the other one is, like these two women defending themselves from this abuser. Like, they're very different. So I appreciate that, because lots of people would have been, like, completely against like any of the protagonists ever killing. But I completely support these characters. I completely support these girls. Like, if you're gonna kill anyone in the show, then you'd want it to be Adam, because he's like, I think him and Jacques are like the most evil characters. They're very evil in like a very human way, because there are lots of abusers and like racist capitalists in real life. It's hard, sort of harder for me to be able to like hate Salem when her entire being involves fantasy experiences that I will never fully understand. Even if I can sympathise with all of these horrible things that she's both had done to her and is doing, it's on such a weird scale to try and shape the world due to her conflict with the gods. But it's difficult to be like, yeah, she's incredibly evil, I hate her. There's not so much of a real world parallel. But Adam is extremely hateable, which is good. I do give some kudos to RWBY for writing these last few moments. Overall, I just thought that was a really good scene, and it was with the broken parts of Gamble's shroud, Blake's weapon, which he like broke apart, and then Blake and Yang sort of put it together and sort of stab him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously they didn't like duct tape it inside of his organs, but they meet. And I just, it's good. I want them to find some peace, and with Adam they can at least try in between fighting to get some peace, because that one threat, that one nightmare is gone, and I think like they can start to get some closure, like from all of the years with Adam. And you could tell she started because she was so much. She's such a strong character. I really love Blake. I know for many people she's their least favourite, but I honestly think like Blake and I have like probably different mental illnesses, because I wasn't abused by a civil rights leader for an organisation I was with, and also dating him when I was like a child / young teenager. Like, that's quite a specific sort of thing, but as a mentally ill person, I just found her quite relatable with all of the self-doubt and sort of having to sort of get past all of these natural like reactions to her, like lots of her natural reactions to things are to sort of be like imposing it on herself and like being self-centered. And I don't want to say self-centered as in selfish, but her focusing on herself, because she's learnt to do that to survive, where she's had to, where every decision, well, like with Adam and the White Fang and everything, has had to be a choice at some point that will affect her safety, then of course she would be very internal, living in her head sort of thing. And if your head has a lot of dark thoughts in, then it's going to make things difficult, and it's going to be difficult to try and connect to people in the same way. So all of this stuff with her running away and her sort of blaming herself and like not really considering that it would have been better if she had stayed in her friends' lives and she wasn't making things worse by just being there, and she would have made things better by just being there. Like, people found it kind of illogical that she didn't quite realise what she should have done, but like, it's called a mental health, like, it's like a mental health issue. It creates issues, you know? So I definitely, even if Rooster Teeth are not going to be like, yeah, we diagnosed Blake with this is what she has. In my brain, she very much is a mentally ill character, and she has made significant progress in the last few volumes, and I'm just really proud of her, you know. And it's like, it's a kind of, it could be a weird thing to sort of say out loud because she's not a real person, but honestly, that's how I feel. I am proud of her, like I know her, and I'm just, when you compare this moment to the fall of Beacon, when she just sort of cowers and he knocks a weapon away and stabs her and she can't fight back, to now, like, you can tell she was scared, but she was going to fight anyway. Which brings me to Yang, who has that exact philosophy, and I just love that. People never remember how smart Yang is. They never do, and it's one of the saddest things about like being a Yang fan, which is like, I don't know if that's like, it's like first world problems, I guess, but I don't know, it feels like a weird problem to complain about. But it's just, it really saddens me, the fact that people just look at Yang and make all these assumptions about her, even when, like, the quote in her trailer, like, the first thing you see about her is, like, don't judge me based on my appearance. And people do that. And they're like, oh, this blonde girl, big boobs, she's that, and she isn't a complex person that has traits that aren't just physical features that I find conventionally attractive. Like, she's a fleshed out character, and I think one of the big parts of Yang is, I think, how do I word this? Okay, so there's this sort of trope that logical characters, nerd characters, genius characters are cold, withdrawn, don't care about other people, and are mean and don't need to care about social graces or being nice or making friends. They're better than that. And it's one trope that makes me so annoyed and angry, because there is no need for it, and there's no correlation. Like, that's like an ego thing and not an intelligence thing. Like, if you have a massive ego and you don't care about anyone else, then you might think you're smart, but you might not actually be like smart. Lots of smart people recognise that hurting people for no reason is going to negatively affect your life. Because even if you do think of people as only things that you can manipulate, they'd be easier to manipulate if they liked you and wanted to help you. So even if you were a bad person and wanted to use other people, you should still be nice to them. So whether you're good or bad and smart, you should be nice to people. So that trope really irritates me. And then we have Yang, who's very sort of emotional and smart. Like, she will see an outcome, she'll make a decision and see these outcomes, and she'll choose an outcome not because it's served to give her the best advantage, but so she can protect people. And there's the whole full controversy, and I think Yang did make the right decision. You know, like, there was no right decision. It would be either let Blake die and, like, maybe have to fight afterwards anyway, or fight now and not let Blake die. So that's what she did. And she didn't know her arm would get cut off. Because how could she know what Adam's semblance was when she first looked at him? We still don't know we still don't know the semblances for some characters that have been in this show for years. So how would she know? But there's so many things. And she just knocked out the park with being smart. It's just everything about Yang. Even in like the first couple of volumes, she said she wanted to be sort of wild and free, I guess. She just literally puts everything on the line to protect people, which is such an amazing thing, because no one, like, as like viewers knowing Yang, obviously we expected her to have this fight and everything and to be a part of it and to do some of these things, but in real life most people aren't like that. You know, so it's just like, it's really above and beyond stuff. But anyway, my point was, she puts her heart, mind and soul into things, and this episode was just perfectly symbolised that, when she used her semblance, the emotional part of her, to get him down, and she used her brain, like the smart part of her, and like even like her metal arm and that, to get his sword away, because his semblance uses the sword. I was watching it and I was saying, like, you need to get the sword, his semblance needs a sword, and that's the thing. Adam, you know, it's great symbolism, because Adam uses his semblance to attack people, but he's also withdrawn, like, he doesn't get it, his sword gets it, and that's why the Yang is better, because it's just her, you know, her semblance. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's all just her. It's her body that's being hurt, it's her body that's getting stronger. You can't really disarm Yang, because even if you do disarm Yang, she will come back. Whereas if you break Adam's sword, he's got one sword. And who knows, like, he ain't getting that back now, is he? Oh my god. I just thought that was such a beautiful scene. I've been saying for ages that I wanted Yang to use her metal arm to stop Adam's sword, and she did, and she used her semblance, and she did. I love her so much. I love her so much. I like the way they animated it as well with the new engine, because I know that they'd been avoiding doing that because it's like, I don't want to say the animations and like style's completely different, because that's not quite true, but the animation is different. It's much more solid. If you look at the old and the new, most, like, pretty much everything does look better, but there are some little fine details and things which aren't solid, which are missing. Like, for example, characters don't have knees and collarbones that are visible. That's why lots of outfits hide that. Like Weiss' new outfit, it hides like her knees and her collarbones and that. And yeah, like hair looks different, and fire looks different. So Yang's semblance, when her hair can't just become fire and has to stay like a physical, chunky sort of solid object, could be really difficult. But I like the effect they used, to be honest, and just the visuals were fantastic. But also, whoever designed that sound when she punched him, it was like, it wasn't like a snap crunch, but it was a kind of real, like, forceful crunch, and that was just a fantastic scene. I just want to talk about the bees fight, to be honest, over the mech fight. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but first I need to get past the bees. You know, this episode's like a bit of a roller coaster, because like the triumphant bit, and then it gets tense. Like, Blake almost died. Like, her aura got broken and she was like hanging off a cliff, and then she just like kind of Spider-Man'd around, because she is a cat and she can climb. And I think we forget that sometimes, because lots of RWBY fights are like on ground level, as most fights are in reality, you know. So that would make the most sense. If I think people like forget that there's an environment around them, and like people can climb, and I thought that was fantastic. But also, Blake's aura confirmed being purple, because I don't think we've ever seen her aura actually broken in the show before. Like, it's a very tense moment, but at the same time, her aura's finally been confirmed as purple, which I guess for some isn't a big deal, but well, I mean, there is one of the many sort of bees character design theories is that like that Blake and Yang's designs were sort of made that way with these colour schemes because they are soulmates and they are complementary. You know, like it's just things like, I'm not entirely sure where to start. It's just things that can't. It's one of those things that can't really be proven unless bees actually becomes canon. But they're just Yang's eyes being like a yellowy goldy colour, and Yang's colour being like a yellowy goldy colour, and then Yang's eyes are obviously purple, and Blake's like, I know she's black and white, but her colour, like her colour is purple. If you know what I mean. If you see all the art where her black is an absolute black, or they want to give her a colour, it's purple. And then in any sort of design where they want vivid colours, they won't make her dark blue or like anything like that. They'll go for purple generally. So that is a part of it, that their eyes match each other's souls, you know, part of the soulmates thing. And it's not, obviously that's not 100% sound of theory, but I definitely do like that idea I wonder why. As a bee shipper, I wonder why. But I'm a multi-shipper at heart. I just back the bees so hard because it's like the closest. That and like Renora are the closest ships I have to becoming canon, so I've got to back them because the others aren't in the race, you know? Like, Pure and Weiss is never going to happen, is it? It's just not. So what I can't back that anymore. So things like that, but that was a very good, intense moment, and then the fight choreography as well was very good, very satisfying. We had lots of good camera angles as well, which is really important in a fight scene. People forget that, but unless you want your thing to look like a fighter game, where the screen's stuck on one place and then the characters move left and right fighting, you need to have good camera angles. You know, get like cinematographer on that, you know? I don't know if that's a real word, but like a proper big budget film where they have all these different camera angles during a fight, some close and some afar. If you can get that for animation during a fight scene, it makes it feel so much more real. Because you're already, you know it's not real. Your brain is just like suspending disbelief throughout the entire thing to be able to make these weird moving shapes into people. But that is so helpful to have camera angles. So I just point that out because I don't know how many people are complimenting camera angles, but we had so many good things, you know, and just little things as well. Like I think Blake ran up Adam's sword, and I just love how like cartoon sort of anime that is, you know. I don't want RWBY to like forget what it is, as it's getting a bit more like sort of, as it's got this darker tone, you know. Because sometimes people sort of be like, oh, I want realism, and like realism isn't the same as like, you know what I mean. But I don't want it to be realistic. That's it, not realism. It's similar but not quite the same. I don't want it to be RWBY to have the exact same laws as our world. Running up a sword is cool. In our world, it's very unlikely. And if you did somehow get an opportunity to try it, probably would not work. But in the RWBY world, you run up that sword. Got lots of different things. I forgot to point out how Yang's fighting style has adapted. One of the great things about Yang and her being smart, she's incorporated things like Mercury's sort of fighting style into her own fighting style. Like now she kicks and she's much more maneuverable, which like is good because even though she is a tank, as she knows now, there are things which can instantly break aura, which she's never really had to deal with before the whole Adam thing. So now she can time it. Now it's not just something that excuse me. Now it's not just something that activates, but it's a power boost. You know, a limited time power boost, like in a video game. So she can plan and be strategic with it, and I think that's the best thing, because I think if she just didn't use her semblance, that wouldn't be progress. Lots of people were pointing at her not using her semblance in previous episodes and being like, yes, she's made progress. And I was like, sort of hesitant to call it that, because there's a difference between you not getting upset because you're calm and you not getting upset because you're repressing your emotions. And it feels more like Yang was trying to stay as calm as she possibly could, you know, like not panic, not do anything reckless, you know, not just react, but to sort of try and strategize and plan. That's what I wanted. I didn't want it to be like her going, I'm not allowed to feel, because there's a big difference between learning how to cope and going, no, I'm just never going to feel anything again. Because the second option, it never works. You can't just make yourself not feel things, like, as much as sometimes people would like to. If you feel things and then try and decide not to, just doesn't really happen. Life has a way of just throwing things at you once you try and start doing that to make you feel things, whether you like it or not. But this very much, she's learned so much, and not only is this like kudos to her character, not only is this a good writing thing, but this is a great visual thing. It makes, I never really watched a Yang fight and gone, oh, this is boring. But I've definitely watched this, like some fights with her, like this fight, and gone, this is so dynamic. Because it could be, like, with her fighting style, it could be like a boxing match. It could be her, not to diss boxing, I've never watched it in my life. But in this show, you would not want that. You want fantastical fights, not real fights. You don't want realistic in this show. Anyway, you don't want her stood still, punching, and then blocking, and then that being it. You would want her to jump around and do all of these cool things, cool weapons, and like the logic of this game, this sort of video game sort of world. So it's just great from a character and writing perspective, and like it's just great as a viewer, just watching that, because Blake's very manoeuvrable, and now Yang is manoeuvrable as well, and they're both in different but complementary styles, and that's really good. That was a very satisfying fight to watch, as well as a very satisfying character moment to watch, and I think that's exactly what you would want from this scene. I also noticed how Yang caught the ribbon with Blake at the other end, and it's like their move, Bumblebee, because the whole team attacks things. I think they used it on the Paladin and in one of their fights in the arena. Where Yang swung on it, but also, yeah. So that was a nice sort of reference, and it's another good character thing. They're working together as a team, and yeah, just chef's kiss. But I'm talking about all this stuff and like smiling and being happy, and then I'm remembering then at the end where Blake kind of breaks down, because you had that whole talk with Adam, like, where he was like, oh, protecting each other, oh no, it's like, you don't keep your promises, you run away, and you chose her over me, and all that stuff. And that's like just like heaping even more negative emotions onto these girls and stuff. And then at the end, it's like the dam breaks, you know. It's good to sometimes you just need to cry. Like I'm saying about how proud I was about Blake and Yang being able to stay calm and that, but obviously I also said about not repressing emotions, and emotions are a chemical thing in your brain, and sometimes you do need to sort out this chemical balance in your brain, and one of the ways you can do that is by crying, you know. Like we're not sure why that is the process in which our bodies chose, you know, to leak the stuff that lubricates and cleans our eyes from our face. Like, we don't like crying itself, not sure, but the actual what crying does, it does help to sort of take the edge of this weird sort of pressure that forms, if that makes sense. And like, it's good, sometimes it is good to just have a good cry. And yeah, that was certainly a moment. That was, oh, it's just break down. And honestly, it's good because now now they can start getting this closure and healing together, and just promising to stay, and like they're gonna keep the promise. They're gonna stay together, and they're gonna protect each other, and it's gonna be good, and they're gonna be partners again, and just sort of holding each other. I think that's such an important moment. Yeah, because you really can't predict all the things that are going to happen in life, and inevitably bad things are going to happen in your life at some point. But if you can have people in your life that you can depend on, it's just such a huge. It's like a really good thing to have, to say the very least. I want them to be together so bad. But honestly, this is one of those moments where it's like, it's a good moment, regardless of whatever you view their relationship as. But like, I still do want to hope, you know. Some of the stuff Adam said was sort of coded, sort of like choosing her over me and stuff. And obviously he has a romantic history with Blake and that, but that does definitely imply things, but obviously it's not quite. People saying these have been confirmed with like this episode and episode 11. Not quite confirmed, you know, but there's definitely shipping fodder there. There's definitely a lot of material for us B shippers to just take, and like, just look at this and you're like, this is definitely going to be in some good fan fiction that I'm going to read at 2 AM when I can't sleep. You know, it's just a good sort of bittersweet moments, which is good. You can get some fluff and some angst from this, but yeah, just I really want them to be together. Be together, but yeah. Anyway, so that whole huge scene. That wasn't the only thing that happened this episode. Believe it or not, other things did happen. I know, right? Crazy. Oh, I was hoping for a kaiju grim, and we're gonna get kaiju grim. You saw it, the Leviathan. I love the design. It's not quite the Leviathan as it was traditionally sort of depicted, but it's a good change, you know, because like, we want some Pacific Rim stuff. Leviathan was more of like a fish snake, and like, been there, done that with a sea serpent. We want like Godzilla, and then they gave us the closest we're gonna get, and as soon as they were like, oh yeah, this mech, to justify this fight, this mech is meant to take out giant Grim. And I was like, oh, kaiju Grim? And then I was like, oh no, but they've got this other stuff going on. It can't be a kaiju Grim, is it? But I want a kaiju Grim. And then like, they showed in the other episodes like all of this disrupt caused by this mech moving around and this fight happening, and like the whole island shuddering and everyone panicking, and obviously Grim are attracted to negative emotions. So I was like, kaiju Grim? Sort of like, not quite daring to hope but really wanting it, and then they're like, here's a kaiju Grim. I was like, yes, and then they're like, here's more Grim, and I was like, this is definitely the finale preparation coming up. So yeah, that's fantastic. It does make me concerned though, because there's one episode left, and somehow these characters are going to have to fight all of these Grim, and so many characters have had their aura broken. Like Jean, RWBY, Blake and Yang, and Weiss seems pretty low. I don't think we saw her aura break, but we definitely saw her sort of collapse as she was doing all those glyphs, so she's pretty low, and Jean can't top her up. Like, the healer is down, guys. The healer is down. So this is, yeah. So it's concerning in that sense, because so many good fighters have just been taken out because they can't endure fights with these Grim, or at least, to be honest, I don't think there were any weaker Grim coming. Like, there was the kaiju, the Leviathan, even. That's what they named it, and I think the rest were all Manticore Grim. So yeah, no Beowulfs, no lesser Grim that you could maybe fight without aura, but all of these ones, they're tough customers. Like, we did get them killing Manticore at the beginning, but they're still, I wouldn't take one on without a literal force field around myself like they have, it's concerning in that sense. But not only that, there's one episode left and there's all of this stuff that needs to sort of be resolved. Like, we don't know, like, were the arms going around Crow just symbolism, or like, is something gonna get him? Is he gonna die? He's had death flags for a while, I'm just saying, so that's concerning. Is Maria gonna die? Because she's also another mentor figure, and she's been made really likeable, and if you make a character too likeable and don't give them enough flaws, it's generally because you want people to like them, so you could kill them once a short-term goal that you've given them is complete, and people will feel bad, and it will help to set the tone or develop characters or something like that. And I don't want Maria to die. Or I'd honestly rather Crow die than Maria, because I feel like the only thing sort of missing now from Crow is either Stark stuff, which could easily be done with Raven and Tyang, and I would rather it be done with Raven and Tyang, because I find Raven much more interesting, and I think Tyang could use some development that Crow's been here for a bit. He's got some development, and just him being a mentor to Ruby. But now Ruby has 2 mentor figures. Well, if you include Ozpin, she has like 3 even. So like, someone's got to go. And I know Ozpin's gone, but it's a temporary thing. Like, he's gonna come back, so who's going to go? Death flags. Death flags everywhere. It's concerning. I don't know when or how, but yeah, one of those characters are probably going to die, and I doubt it's going to be Ozpin, because he's Ozpin. We're kind of stuck with that one. Yeah, so what else has been resolved? Yeah, we don't know what the dynamic duo, Emerald and Mercury, are going to plan to do, and Cinder and Neo. We haven't heard from them in a while, and that's one of the most concerning things, is when writers of a TV show or something, they present these villains that are clearly planning to do something horrible, and then they don't check in with them for ages, and then they present all this stuff, all these subplots that are coming together and everything, so you focus on that, and like, generally it's done so when these villains do come in, they'll surprise you with this horrible thing that they've done, and it'll be a massive shock. But I can remember that I haven't seen Cinder in a while, so like, I am concerned, because like, when was the last episode we saw Cinder and Neo? I think it's episode 7, and like, I don't think that was too long ago in my brain, but episode 7 out of 13. I think that was the last time we saw her, so that's like, yeah, it's been a minute. It feels like they're purposely trying to make us forget what these characters are doing, and I'm like, are we gonna find out in the finale? Or is it gonna be another volume thing? Are we gonna have an after credits scene? I am concerned, because obviously they want to kill Ruby, and Ruby's my girl. And obviously I do want to see these villains again. Obviously I don't want Ruby to die, so it's conflict. My point was that there are all these unanswered questions and like, obviously there are more, but I'd made my peace with the more being resolved in the next volume. I didn't think these would have to be resolved next volume. But I suppose that I would rather it be like that than them try to do it all at once and be rushed. Because I think that was probably the main issue with Volume 5, is that it was rushed. I think Volume 5 feels more like a draft, which sounds really mean to say, I guess, but that's not my intention, because like every single thing that has to be created has to go through multiple versions until you get to the thing. And like whenever I write something that has to be like assessed or shown to people, I'll edit it multiple times, even if I'm only gonna like read it in class and not actually have it be an assessment piece, you know. And it feels like Volume 5 needed to be edited a couple more times. Like, it had lots of fantastic potential and some really great moments and some great character stuff, but I feel like it could have gone through, like, if there a few more revisions if they had time. Whereas Volume 6 does not feel rushed to me at all. The pacing is great. I think the writing for the most part has been very, very good. The dialogue's been good. The character motivations make sense. And like all the visuals are phenomenal. So even though I wanted to see these questions answered by the end of this volume, if not, that's understandable, you know, because I would much rather they took the time to create this product where we loved it and wanted more, than something that was rushed and has potential but also has grime on it, sort of thing. My point was that this is shaping up to be a really good finale. I'm just concerned about what could happen in it, because their chances for survival aren't looking great, but obviously some people will have to survive. I just hope we don't get Juniper Death Theory or something on this, because I don't want that. I don't want Juniper Death Theory or anything like that. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else I missed, other than I really like the scene with the mech as well, and Ruby being inventive with her semblance. And what's it called over? The gross racist old lady. Her having consequences for her actions, like her going out and doing this, is also her not listening to protocol and her not listening to her men, and creating this situation in which a Grimm appeared and then refusing to listen after, you know. And that's good. It's crucial to have your characters' actions matter by giving them consequences that people can just see on screen. So that was really good, and makes sense for a character, and Ruby trying to convince her makes sense for a character, and also be willing to mess up the mech with her with that really cool use for semblance. Just yeah, overall, it's just, that was a really great moment. That fight. I mean, we even had my son Oscar, the sweet boy. He's a good, sweet avocado farmer boy. Him using his skills to help find a weakness for this mech for them to exploit, even if it didn't work out so well. Overall, it's a really good episode, and like always, it felt too short because the pacing was great. This is going to be one of the things where I won't be able to rewatch the whole volume in one sitting because it's longer than the average film by quite some margin, but I will want to do that because I think that would be a great watching all of these together. But overall, I just really enjoyed this episode, even though not all of it was happy in a traditional sense. And I am excited and concerned for the finale. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the episode of RWBY. I hope you enjoyed this rant about how much I liked it and cared about these characters, which has gone on for way too long now, about an hour. I apologise for that. I have a lot of feelings about this, so sorry. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts, let me know, and I'm going to end it before it actually gets to an hour. So, see you in the next video for the finale. There we go.